Hello, I'm Dana Cowley in Olympia, Washington, and this is Charter Local Edition Northwest. My guest today is 12th District Representative Cary Condotta. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate you.
Great to be here, Dana.
You're concerned about, talk about raising the minimum wage even further in the state.
Yeah, there's a push with an initiative this fall and to move it up to $13.50. That would be a huge increase. And my concern is that the polling shows that might pass, and I think we've got to do some education with folks to tell them how devastating that could be, particularly to places outside of Seattle. Obviously, the state of Washington as a whole has a fairly good economy, but it's not that strong in the outer areas, and this would be devastating to those areas.
Tell us about your concern for your constituents and people living outside of Seattle specifically. What do you think that would do if that increase goes through?
Well, the thing is, there's really no winners here. For youth particularly, we have one of the highest youth unemployment rates in the nation right now, and I think that's because of our high minimum wage, and we're going to make that worse, so we're going to have a real problem with youth unemployment. Entry-level jobs will probably disappear, and at the other end of the spectrum, we have a lot of folks that are retired on a fixed income, and those folks are going to see a massive increase in prices without any increase in income because they're on a fixed level. So people at both ends of the spectrum are really going to suffer, but mainly I think the biggest damage will be to small business people who can't incorporate this 40% increase. They can't raise prices. They're kind of caught between a rock and a hard place. And I think it will be devastating to the small business folks.
Mm-hmm. I do see where some of the concern comes, though. Seattle is getting so big, and one of the last times I was just checking some headlines, it's really one of the 5 or 10 most expensive cities in the nation anymore. And so for a young family trying to survive in Seattle, I think that's probably where the push to try to make livable wage for the Seattle folks might be coming from.
Well, I think that's somewhat true, but the reason that push is there is because there's a lot of great jobs there. If you really look at the minimum wage, only 3% of the people in Washington state are on minimum wage, and very few of them are in Seattle. Seattle has a very high wage base because of all the wonderful companies that are there, these legacy companies. And so it's a little different situation, but when you go outside of that realm, it changes a lot. And we already have a very high unemployment rate in parts of Washington, double what the rate is in Seattle, and so this would be aggravating. Anytime you raise the price of anything, my background's in economics, and anytime you raise the price of something 30 or 40%, you can't expect you're going to have more of it. You're going to probably use less of it, and that's really the case here.
And what other things do you want to accomplish this session? We're about halfway through it. You still have more time to do?
Well, I think the concern for all of us right now is the budget situation. We had a good budget last year. We feel it's very stable. It's a forward-looking budget that should balance, although we're starting to see some problems with that. What I'm concerned about is we're starting to see the flattening of that revenue curve. We're starting to see a little flattening of the economy. Even though Seattle's booming, the outside edges are not that way, and we're seeing a flattening. So what we're concerned about is coming back with a big deficit. If we pile on more spending and more programs right now, which is kind of the tendency to do, we could come back with a huge problem in the next session and have to go back to this roller coaster of cuts. And, you know, we're up, we're down, we're up, we're down. The 4-year budget plan that the Senate put in place was a great idea, try to smooth out those curves. And unfortunately right now that 4-year projection is starting to head down. So we have to be very careful about what we do with the budget. Outside of that, there's a few policy issues here that have people concerned. The charter schools issue, and that's not charter, but charter schools, and is a big concern. You know, the bathroom issue that came up has probably gotten more email and more interest than most things. But this is a short session, and we should be just trying to make the small adjustments necessary and get out of here. And of course, I think that's every legislator's dream after last year being here for a record 176 days.
Yes, 3 overtimes?
Yeah, 3 overtimes, and in the middle into July. I think most legislators want to get out of here in 60 days. That's probably the #1 issue right now. But we'll see what happens. There is some talk of a compromise on this minimum wage issue that could come out of here. I don't think that's a good idea. I think that's just playing right into the problem. We've just got to educate people and let them understand that you just can't get a free lunch. You have to pay. You can't get something for nothing, Dana, unfortunately. It just doesn't work that way.
Hasn't worked that way in my life.
No.
Cary, thank you for being here.
Oh,
we
yeah.
appreciate it. Thank you for joining us. This is Cary Condotta. I'm Dana Cowley, and you're watching Charter Local Edition Northwest.